Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Themed Office Hours with Jess. Today, I'm going to be talking to you all about receiving and giving feedback, which I'm sure, as you all know, is a big part of being not only a grad student or student in general, but just being in the world of academia and everything. So oftentimes I've heard the phrase, you need a thick skin in academia. Academia, or just school again in general, is filled with lots of rejections, sometimes bad grades, not getting manuscripts accepted, and also just a lot of critiques and criticism from others and mentors of your work. Unfortunately, it's a part of the process. So again, learning how to receive feedback and let that not really get to you is a big part of learning how to be a grad student. And again, this phrase gets thrown around a lot. And I was once chatting with one of my mentors about this because I think we had a manuscript that had been rejected from desk rejected for the third or fourth time. And I mentioned, I just want to have a thick skin to continually, keep resubmitting this manuscript and not get affected by these desk rejections. And then what he told me that has really stuck with me since then is that it's not a thick skin that you need, but Teflon skin. And what he meant by that was not to let things stick. So it's not just having that thick skin, but also just letting things go when you do get sort of like a critique or a bad review or a desk rejection or whatnot. Because at the end of the day, it's not personal and you are still a successful individual, regardless of what other people say. So like I've mentioned, academia is full of rejection and critique, whether it's comments from colleagues, feedback from advisors and mentors on various, papers and whatnot, or just dealing with that nasty reviewer number two's comments on your manuscript when it gets peer reviewed. There's just always feedback happening in this process. So now I want to talk a little bit about the art of giving feedback and why this is so important, even as a graduate student, to start understanding sort of how to give good and bad, or how to give good feedback versus bad feedback. So I want to share this all with you. This is not a real email, but I have received very similar emails to this in the past from my mentors when I've sent them, papers or slides or whatnot to review, and have gotten just very cut and cold, dry responses that just say, see attached for my edits. I look forward to your next draft. You need to reword this or whatever, and just cut sort of straight to the negative part of what I sent them. And it never feels good to receive information like this. And so I've always made it a habit to sort of, when I give feedback to other people, start and end with something a little bit nicer. So I want you all to now take a look at this email. It's the same thing, but it just starts off with a little bit of a more intro that just says, hey, great start to this, sort of acknowledges, that you have put in some work and that it's going in the right direction. Then you have the critique in the middle, and then close it off with another little bit of sort of encouragement of, I know you've worked very hard on this and it's nice to see this all coming together. So when I receive an email like this, I feel way better about myself, even though I'm receiving this manuscript that's kind of probably bleeding red with comments. But just those little sort of reassurances and affirmations are enough to help me. And this is what I like to call a feedback sandwich. This is something I actually learned when I was a student orientation leader at UC Berkeley during undergrad, and has just stuck with me forever. So no matter when I'm giving any sort of feedback or criticism, whether it be for school or even just in my personal life, I try to follow this model. So the way it works is kind of what I just sort of said. You want to start with something positive, and that's your bread. You know, one would like to say the carbs are the delicious part of the sandwich, so you start with a piece of bread, and then you have the meat in the middle of that sandwich, which is, the constructive criticism that you're giving. And then you finish off that sandwich with that second slice of bread to end it off on a good note. And these feedback sandwiches, doing this sort of like positive, then constructive criticism, then positive, really just packages that feedback nicely. So not only are you giving good feedback, but that other person also feels good receiving it and will feel motivated to do, that change or edit or whatnot that you are suggesting. No one wants the keto version of this sandwich. So please include those 2 slices of bread around the meat. Even I, someone who, has a weird diet, would not want to receive this kind of a feedback sandwich. So again, my overall tips are to keep this sandwich in mind anytime you are giving feedback, both written and verbal. This is also very useful when grading too. Like when I'm leaving comments in people's assignments as I grade as a TA, I try to even follow this model, even if it's just like a couple of sentences of text. I'll always acknowledge that they did a good job, then provide my feedback, and then say a couple more positive words at the end. And this is important, again, for you to start to, practice now as a graduate student, because someday you will be a mentor too. And it's going to be really important for you to foster those good relationships with your mentees. And part of that will be to give, feedback that empowers your mentee rather than brings them down. So again, thank you. I hope you enjoyed this video and love to hear any thoughts or suggestions.